Hey, how's it going guys? Jack and Maddie with the Toasty Bros, and today we have another benchmark video on the benchmarking station. We have the Quadro T600. Will it actually perform up to the 1650 like it's supposed to for a cheaper price?
Well, we're about to find out, but first a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an amazing online learning community dedicated to bringing you top quality classes for you to develop your skills. I've been going through Marquise Brownlee's course on YouTube Success, where he teaches the fundamentals of creating engaging and unique content. It's been a way for us here at the Toasty Bros to take our content to the next level. If there is a skill that you've been wanting to learn, there is no better time than now to dive into Skillshare classes. Everything from keeping your household plants alive to advanced video editing tutorials awaits you. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description down below will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today. Special thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into the video, shall we? So what we have sitting right here is the Quadro T600, which I'm gonna grab real quick just because I want to hold it while I talk about it. This thing right here is basically a dumbed down version of the GTX 1650, and it's meant for workstations. You can get a Quadro driver that makes it more specific for workstation tasks, but yeah, it's basically 1650, 250 bucks. The average use price of a 1650 right now is about $300 at the time recording this video. So when this is actually 250, it might be a decent buy, but there are some drawbacks that we will talk about during the benchmarking section. But yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about this thing real quick for those who haven't seen our benchmark videos, and then dive into some testing.
So for our actual test bench here, we have a Ryzen 5 5600G 6-core 12-thread. We have this PNY Accelerate 16 gigs at 3600 megahertz, all inside of this really nice tough gaming B550 with an NVMe 512GB SSD, so nothing can possibly hold back this Quadro card because obviously it's pretty low end, so we made sure we went high end as possible that still makes sense, all inside of this beautiful deep cool case.
So yeah guys, what we're gonna go ahead and do is load up our suite of benchmarks and just kind of see what this thing is capable of and if you should buy it instead of buying a scalped GPU right now. So let's do it.
Alright guys, now that we have the Nvidia T600 on the test bench, let's go over some key specs and then dive into those benchmarks. Now, a couple things to consider is this graphics card does come with 4 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM. It does come with 640 CUDA cores, which is a cut down from the 1650, which we are comparing it to, of 896 CUDA cores, and it only pulls 40 watts under load, which is very power consumer friendly, making it a pretty decent option if you're upgrading like an Optiplex or something like that, if this thing actually performs the way we want it to. Now, you might have seen during some of the B-roll that the video out selection is kind of weird. It's all mini DisplayPort, so you will need to get some adapters unless you have a mini DisplayPort to DisplayPort cable that works with your monitor. But if you did want to max out all the monitors, you can go up to 4 4K monitors at 120 Hertz. Not really sure who's going to do that, but the option is there for you. Now, again, this is a workstation focused card. The main reason I picked this up is because people are not scalping these things because they don't consider them to be gaming ready cards, because one, they use a specific driver for workstation tasks. They're not optimized for games. You're really just hoping that the raw power of this card is able to push enough frames, because it's not going to get the driver optimizations that a normal 1650 or for that matter any GTX card is going to get with their game ready drivers. So now let's just go ahead and dive into those benchmarks. Again, we are on our 5600G test bench, and first up in Apex Legends on low settings at 1080p, we averaged 80 to 100 FPS. I was kind of surprised to see this number because I was really expecting that driver optimization to really hold things back. But one, do keep in mind, running on lower settings, you are more reliant on the CPU, but even then, with our 760 benchmark, we were barely getting 60 FPS at 1600 by 900, so when we're getting 1080p, 80 to 100 FPS, I still think it's a pretty good option. And of course, with all these benchmark runs that we do with these graphics cards, we're contemplating whether or not this is a good placeholder option for somebody building a system that has like a 10th gen i5 or an i7 or something that doesn't have integrated graphics like a 5600G. So you can really get to see if this would be a good option to hold you over until you can afford a 3060, 3070, 3080, or manage to pick one up at MSRP. Next up in Forza Horizon 5 on medium settings at 1080p with the built-in benchmark, we ended up averaging 55 FPS. The game did suggest we run on low settings, and I would imagine on low settings we would average about 60 to 70 FPS, which is more than playable for a game like like Forza. Do keep in mind, this graphics card does sell for $250 on Lenovo's website. There's probably other ways you can get it, but you might pay more than $250, and it does go on sale regularly for under $200 at times. At that price point, it's an absolute steal, but just know what you're getting into once again. If there's a brand new game that's going to come out to the market, it might not have a driver that works well with it, but these more generalized games like Forza, Apex, and we'll see some other games here in a second, will work, but they might have some limiting factors because of that driver. But overall, right now, it's looking pretty good for this little T600. Next up in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which I made a slight oopsie now that I'm looking back at this benchmark footage, I actually ran that benchmark on high preset at 1080p, which this graphics card is not designed for, but it actually got 39 FPS. I would imagine if you did run it on low like I would intend, you would get very close to 60 FPS in a game like Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 1080p on low settings. For a card at this price point in this current market that is new and compares to something like a 1650, it's a pretty decent buy. Of course, you could go out of your way to find some older generation card that's better than a 1650. You could pick up like a 970 or some other GPU that probably would run you close to the same price on the used market, but you're getting something new that you don't have to worry about showing up damage, and if it does, you have a company you can send the card to. That's a big thing that not a lot of people fully wrap their heads around. Not a lot of new people diving into PC gaming want to go out of their way to buy something used and have the problem of stuff showing up dead and then just have to deal with that. They rather work with a big, large chain instead of eBay, Facebook Marketplace, and other places like that, and I really don't blame them. Now, the last game we decided to test was Fortnite because, well, you guys just love Fortnite, and I bet you're probably looking at this video wondering, well, does it run Fortnite? And yeah, it does. On 1080p, epic view distance, everything else on low, we averaged 60 to 90 FPS. It wasn't great. It was a little bit lower than I thought it was going to be, especially running on epic view distance, everything else on low. So you do have to keep in mind this probably is one of the games that the optimization isn't really there. There's probably some sort of feature that only works very well on the game ready drivers that you get with GTX cards, but it still plays Fortnite at 1080p low, which is more than most systems can say when you are running, well, the kind of hardware that you're working with here. So, but overall, this Nvidia T600 is a pretty awesome card. I personally wouldn't pick it up at $250 unless I knew the game that I was going to play regularly worked perfectly fine on this driver, and hopefully these benchmarks helped you out a little bit. But it's still pretty cool to see that there are some Quadro cards like the T600, and if you guys want to see us benchmark the T1000, which is more like a 1650 super level card, let us know down below. But it's really cool to see that these cards exist in the market, and you can actually use them to, well, get some basic gaming done while also being a decent workstation option. So if you want to pick this card up, link in the description down below, and also if you want to pick any of the stuff up from our test bench, link in the description down below. Be affiliate links and it will help us out. I would bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
Alright guys, so after benchmarking this beautiful Quadro card, we kind of have a conclusion of if you can find this card at the right price and you have the right use case for it, it is actually an amazing card and hands down, 1650 level, but at the same time, you do have to download those special Quadro drivers, so for certain games, you are going to be getting less performance in a 1650, and if this card is similarly priced to 1650, it really doesn't make sense.
And at $250 that we paid, I really don't think it's necessarily worth it at that price because you could spend $50 more and get a guaranteed like 1650 for about 300 bucks. Still, that's not a great price for a card like that, but you know what? That's the market we're in. But regardless, this is still a very interesting option, and there's somebody out there who definitely like this thing, so check the link in the description down below. And yeah, cool to test out this card. Let us know if you want to see a PC build with it because we have it now. What else are we going to do with it? If you want to see a budget build, let us know down below.
So as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros. And do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
And if you don't want to have to worry about getting some weird graphics card like this, and you want a real working man's
a real working man's gaming PC.
Okay, anyways. And if you don't want to have to worry about hunting for, God, I'm having trouble. And if you don't want to worry about having to
it's one of those. Bro, we got 7 minutes left.
We're
Come
fine.
on.
All right.
It's only take 7 minutes.
And hey, if you don't want to have to worry about getting some weird card like this, check out our PC selling business.
PCBros.tech is where we sell gaming PCs, gaming laptops, and yeah, we don't sell just GPUs. You can get full systems. So check out our website or come in person. Come in person. Yo,
oh God.
Come in person. PCBros.tech. You know what? I want you to leave it just like that, McAllister. Goodbye. I'm done. I'm over it.